To order the November 26th meeting of the trustees of trust funds. And first item of business, and by the way, I'll just acknowledge up front that we have a hard deadline of 8:45 to vacate this room because the city manager has her usual Tuesday morning staff meeting. So, and we've got Brittany Lynn coming. Is she coming?
Around 8, yeah.
Around 8
I sent her a reminder
so-
yesterday, yep.
So I want to keep the conversation moving. So first item would be to approve the minutes of our last meeting.
So move. Second.
Okay, any corrections, comments, discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair says aye. Okay, so items 2 and 3 on our agenda are two new trusts that have been created, or in the process of being created. The 400th Anniversary Education and Public Art Trust and the Reserve for for Portsmouth Settlement Anniversaries. The genesis of this is that the P400 nonprofit company is about ready to dissolve. You may recall that last December, Valerie came in with the city manager, and they had asked what they could do with what they anticipated would be extra monies, and they weren't ready to do it within the 2 or 3 weeks before the end of 2023. They now are pushing hard to get their books wrapped up and all monies dispersed out by December 31st of this year, so they can officially dissolve without having to file an extra year's tax return, et cetera. So Suzanne Woodland and Valerie and Susan Labrie and the others with P400 have been working on creating these two trusts. One is to fund, it's a $100,000 contribution to fund educational programs dealing with Portsmouth history with an emphasis on art, public art as that process. And the other is to simply have a reserve that would be funded by about $30,000, a reserve for future celebrations of the anniversary of the founding of the settlement of Portsmouth. So the documents you see and were distributed last week are the proposed final drafts of these two trusts. Probably about 3 weeks or so ago, I received the initial draft. I got back with comments related primarily to the process by which we get a request for disbursement, and with the proof that the city council had authorized that. There's all various other things in there, having how the programs are approved, but those I don't really think are part of what we have to worry about. So where these currently stand is that they've received final approval by the city council. That will happen on the December 2nd meeting. What they would like from us is a vote to approve the form of these documents. And I would even go so far as to say that we could vote to actually enter into the documents and accept the funds that are shown in each document, subject to city council approval on December 2nd. And at that point, the next day or so, the P400 will sign the final documents and accompany them with a check or two checks. And then at the end of the month, probably at our next meeting on the 18th or the 19th, they'll have whatever additional is left. They're right now in the process of paying all their bills. They will have whatever's left, they'll divide on like a 3-to-1 basis with final checks that they will just be able to give to Judy. We won't need to be part of that. We can discuss it at our next meeting, but that gives them 10 days to just sort of wrap that up. So, any questions about the content of the trust document?
Just, why is it, I'm just curious, the genesis of the name, the reserve? I don't get that. Anyway, that's
Yeah.
fine.
That
It's a
occurred to
tri-
me, but I just, I agree.
Okay,
But
it's just a normal trust for the purposes outlined here.
Exactly. It's like we call the scholarship, the so-and-so scholarship.
Yeah.
We don't call them the so-and-so scholarship trust. So I don't think there's any significance to that, but,
Okay.
Peter?
I just want to make sure that, you and I talked about this, that the funds will be dispersed after certification by the city clerk that the city council has voted for disbursements of any funds requested.
Right.
That's in here.
Yeah, with documentation showing the city council. That's
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that language is in paragraph 7 of the reserve and paragraph 8 of the education and public art version. And that language is the language that we've requested in all the recent trusts, such as.
Yeah,
SIP trust.
but that says, item 7,
Yep.
request from the city manager of the city actual pursuant authorization of the city council. That doesn't say anything about the city clerk certifying the action.
Okay. It says that it's got to be accompanied by a copy of the council authorization. So we've accepted, so in another item that's coming up, we've had, you'll see there's actually a certification by the city clerk, but we've accepted copies of the council minutes.
From the city clerk.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we're all under the same procedure.
Well, I think we are, because that's what we've been doing, but
Okay.
do you have a question about it, Dana?
No, I understand what he's saying. I mean, it's a process question.
Right.
I mean, this doesn't necessarily state that it has to come from the city clerk, but the question I have is, how necessary is it if we have the other documentation?
Well, we can just add, we can vote to approve this by adding on at the very end of each of those paragraphs from the city clerk,
Yeah,
if you want.
I would move that amendment,
And
because that's what we have been doing.
okay. Is there a second for that?
I'll second that.
Okay, all right, so further discussion, we can do this now because they're going to put together the packet this afternoon for the city council meeting on the 2nd. So I can get this to Suzanne and she can make those changes and, okay, all right, so any further discussion about that? Any concern about any other provisions in the documents? Okay, all right. So I will call the question. The question, as I interpret our discussion, is to approve the form of these, each of these trust documents, subject to the amendment that paragraph 7 of the reserve for Portsmouth settlement anniversaries and paragraph 8 of the trust for the 400th anniversary education and public art trust be amended to add at the end of those paragraphs, after the language accompanied by a copy of the council authorization, add the words from the city clerk. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay. All right.
How do we happen, do you know how this amount of money wound up being left over?
I don't know, I'm not privy to their, you know, I
That was
think.
kind of a standalone thing, I don't know.
Yeah. You know, it's a separate
This is where,
nonprofit. Its budgets weren't approved by the city, so.
Yeah.
They obviously were successful in raising more
Yeah,
money than they
which is
originally
great.
anticipated. All right, so while we're waiting for Brittany, let's
go over the
go over the
TD.
TD Bank.
Yeah. Does anybody need a copy of anything? Do you need a big one?
I'd like a big
Yeah,
one.
big one.
Yeah,
The
that'd
small
be
one.
good.
I only made 3 copies because Dana is going to be here, so. That's the inception. Need the other ones as well? Are you good?
No.
I've got the other ones.
Dana, do you need the other ones? Are you
No.
good? Okay. And then, do you have the TD dashboard as well?
I do have that, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's,
This is for October.
So we're looking at the dashboard right now?
Yep. And monthly performance was down about 1.35% in October from the previous month. But, you know, overall, the total balance funds is over 26 million, so still doing fairly well, even though we had a little bit of a tougher month.
Yeah. We're still up
Oh, yeah,
over 14%
yes.
year, so. Questions about that document? Okay.
And then you have the 3 documents that I do, which is the, you know, basically the pie chart with the monthly review. There were no withdrawals this month. In October, there were no withdrawals. And then you have the, you know, month-to-month performance, which basically you can see from October 2023 to October 2024. Back in October 23, we were at, you know, 20 million, we're at 26 million. Of course, we had an infusion of cash. Mortimer was one of the things that came in back around October, so you can see that jump right from the 20 to 22, that's that cash that came in, so.
Yep.
And then the big sheet is just the sheet, my running tab of, you know, since we've gone with TD, month to month, how it's performing and any withdrawals that are there. And again, there were no withdrawals this past month, so.
Yeah, and we don't have any withdrawals for this month either, right?
None for this month. There will be some for December for the budgeted amounts for Prescott Park and docks. We do that usually in December and in June.
All right, questions about the TD accounts at this point?
And we'll be having TD come in when? January or?
I think so, yeah.
Okay,
But they were in
right. They were just in last month.
October. Yeah.
So
Oh, no, February, they'll be in February, because we'll have the,
We want the fourth quarter.
we want the year-end numbers.
Okay, so you want it February?
Calendar year.
Is that will be an in-house, right? He needs to come in for that one. We just had a Zoom, okay. So February, I just want to make note of it so I can reach out to him ahead of time.
Was he here in July or?
He and Suzanne were
August?
here,
Was it July or August?
July.
Okay, all right. Well, if we can have him come in January.
He probably won't have,
Yeah, the problem is unless we have a meeting at the very end of the month, he won't have
The year end.
yeah. So I think you're going to be gone in January, February anyways, okay.
All right,
So
so
let's have
February.
him come in and.
Okay.
Okay. All right, well, the next item on the agenda is to pick the dates for, through the first third of the year, January through April. And we're still shooting for Wednesday? Or
Yeah,
Wednesday's still good for you?
yeah, Wednesdays,
All right, so then Wednesday, the 15th, or Wednesday, the 22nd?
I can't do the 22nd.
Okay. 15th, good?
yeah.
And February 15th, no, 19th?
yeah,
Okay,
That ought to give them plenty of time to get that. March the 19th?
yeah,
okay.
And April 16th. That's good with everybody?
That was easy.
Okay. All right. Next item that is not on the agenda, but results from a late-minute request yesterday from the city manager's office is,
Mr. Chairman, I moved to suspend the rules to take up an item that is not on the posted agenda.
okay. Do I hear a second for that?
Second,
All right. And is that the item that I was?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. So all in favor of suspending the rules?
aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay, so this is the agenda. So, as you know, we're holding monies in the in the Public Art Trust relating to the work that was done on the water treatment plant on Pierce Island. And back in August 19th, I think it was, the city council, at the recommendation of the Public Art Review Committee, had approved a particular artistic design and had voted to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with a company out of Florida for purposes of creating and installing that piece of art. A portion of that contract is in the materials that you received yesterday, and under the terms of that contract, the city is to make an initial payment of $46,666 within 10 days of entering into the agreement. Even though you don't have that page, Judy informs us that the city manager entered into that agreement on November 20th, so the initial payment would be due on November 30th. And so in the materials we received yesterday, there is a request for disbursement of that initial $46,666 presented to us today. So let me just ask, we do have the $150,000?
We do.
We do, okay. And so I've reviewed this document, and I wanted to just present my concern with the proposal as presented and invite a conversation about it. But as I've looked over the the minutes, or the action item, I should say, from the city's website and the request from the city manager and from the economic development director related to this, it appears that on August 19th, that the city voted to accept the recommendation of the Art Review Committee for this project and voted to empower the city manager to enter into a contract for $140,000 to have that design constructed and installed. But I don't see anything in the council vote that authorizes or says that that project will be paid for out of the funds from the 1% for public art reserves that we're holding in the trust. Under our policy and under the terms of the trust, that we're supposed to disperse at a request of the city manager where there is proof that the city council has authorized that dispersal. So,
From the trust.
what's that?
From the trust.
From the trust, yeah. So, I think it kind of puts the city in a bind here because that money is due before this could be corrected by the city council is meeting on December 2nd. But I'm just not sure that we're authorized to disperse based on.
Mr. Chairman, I would think the thing to do would be to request the city council to vote on this at their December 2nd meeting, and if necessary, the chairman call a special meeting of the trustees after that certification for a special meeting to disperse the funds.
Okay. Well, first, is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Okay. So before we get to that as a cure, does anybody disagree with my review of the documents and the state of the affair?
No.
I just have a question for clarification.
Yep.
Is this contract with the artist or with the contractor that's building the project?
I think they're one and the same.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have the answer to that.
My impression is they're one and the same.
Okay. Because if it's not, it gets
No, it-
complicated, given the way this
Yeah.
reads.
Yeah. And just, yeah. So, I'll just, for the record, including our TV audience, I'll just clarify that the terms of the Public Art Trust specifically say that on the use of trust assets, that the trustees shall disperse such funds at times and in amounts as may be specified under the direction of the city manager acting pursuant to that authorization from the city council. So I think there has to be a specific authorization. Now, and so before we vote on Peter's motion, I want to be able to tell the assistant city manager that the city council can we would agree that the city council can authorize the city manager to make one or more requests for disbursements assuming the funds remain in the Public Art Fund, under this contract. They don't have to come to us every time there is a new requisition, as long as they
Voted that way.
vote that the city manager can make those requisitions. Yeah, each of those requisitions. Are we okay with that? You okay with that, Peter?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, then I will,
So
good
you're going to
morning,
talk to...
Brittany.
Good morning.
You're going to talk to Suzanne then?
Yes, yes. So I will call the question on Peter's motion. All in favor, signify by saying aye,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. You want to,
So what the city council will do on December 2nd is to authorize the whole amount to be withdrawn from,
yeah,
okay.
but in installments pursuant to the terms of the contract.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and, are you still going to be around on Tuesday?
Next Tuesday?
Yeah. Or are you going back?
No, I'll be around, but not Tuesday. I'm traveling Tuesday,
Okay,
Toronto.
all right.
I'll be back Wednesday.
Okay, so will you be accessible via Zoom? No? Okay. All right,
On Tuesday?
on Tuesday.
No.
All right. Are you going to be driving in a car somewhere, so?
No, I'll be in a all-day meeting Tuesday.
Okay. Not to keep pressing you, but because of the urgency, could you jump out of that meeting for just, we don't need we're not going to have a full meeting, we're just going to have a meeting for purposes of this vote. Is that, and we can schedule it anytime.
Yeah, I could.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. It doesn't have to be a Zoom, it could be just a call-in.
Yeah, I could.
What-
You're talking December 3rd, right?
Yes.
Third, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, particularly after 2:30. I mean, is that too late? I could do it
All right.
earlier, but
Okay, so if we did, would it be okay to say 2:30, or to be safe, should we say 3 o'clock, or?
Let me just,
either that or is 7:30 too early?
No, it's fine with me. The only concern is I don't think we'll be able to get anything in writing
Okay.
from,
Yeah, so 3 o'clock safer.
okay, so, and if we have to do it in your office, we'll do it in your office.
That's fine.
Okay, so why don't you just plan on a 3 o'clock, and Peter, you'll be here in
Yeah.
person with me? Okay. All right. All right. That brings us to our star today.
Hey, 2 meetings in 1 year. I feel like
Well, we appreciate you coming in. Sorry we had to screw up the schedule last week, but
honestly, it worked better for me. My daughter was wicked sick last week, so I was home almost every day. Daycare did not have a great start. She got double ear infection 2 different times in croup within 3 weeks.
Okay.
So I was in the thick of it last week, and my husband was away for work. So
Oh, boy.
yes, so this actually worked out way better.
all right. Well, so we've got you on today for 2 things.
Yes.
One is to follow up the meeting we had a couple months ago on the Haven medals, and then the second will be dealing with something new for us, the David Kohlhaas Memorial. So let's start with the medals. So when we were here last time, we kind of went over the history as to how we find ourselves in this problem. And as you know, we did extensive history into the original Haven will. We were able to chase down. We found some city council things back in the 1860s, et cetera. And, you know, we were looking at the request that you had made last summer about adding on the career technology as potential recipients. And so I think we talked about this last time. If we're going to solve this, we'd like to do it in a fashion where it has an element of flexibility enough so that whenever the school changes its curriculum, we don't have to come back to this again.
Yep.
So hopefully you had a chance to think about that, and would love to hear what you think.
Yes, so I did send Judy the updated, and I can pull it up on my phone, but I talked to admin, I basically did a draft, and then I talked to admin, and then I talked to Zach also. Thanks.
Does anybody else need a copy, or are you good?
Was that the
Haven?
memo from Kay Wooten?
No.
Yes, it
Yeah.
says thank you, Kay Wooten, because she's the one that sends out, she's our registrar, so she's the one that sends it out to all the department heads. So this is like the letter, I just used what we had and just edited it, so we basically looked at it, and I talked to Courtney Richings, the director of CTE, also, to get her input for the CTE portion of things. So the senior class member, that was always how it was written, other than the general excellence one. But all of the department-specific ones were always a senior, so that stayed the same. I didn't change that. And then we kind of had two categories. So we had core course of study and then career technical education. So core course of study is, we didn't vastly change. So there's one from each of the 5 core departments that the departments get to choose. We did take away, I think there was something in there about rank, because we are having discussions at the high school about possibly getting rid of rank. So I know that might be coming, so I took it out. And we are gonna do it more based on GPA instead, and the grades that the kid has in the particular classes. So if they're being looked at for English, it would be the English classes that we're looking at. So they must have all A's for 3 or more years in the content area that they're getting the award for, and they must have a 4.0 weighted GPA overall. So they can't just be really good in English, but then doing poorly in all of their other
My God.
classes. They have to be a strong student overall.
Kids are like brilliant. Can a student get more than one award?
They can, yes. Yep. It doesn't happen often, and because that's the other piece with it, like it being written like this, I think we'll actually end up having a little bit more of a variety of students, because with the rank piece and how it's written, you have like the kid that's number 1 in the class is straight A's in everything, so they're eligible for every one of the awards. So I think it's going to open up opportunities where more students are going to be eligible, so the departments can kind of chat. Like it might be something that they kind of look at and they're like, let's share the wealth a little bit. Like we're not going to give one kid 3 awards. Like there's other kids that are really strong in these areas, so we can kind of look at it.
So is there discretion?
It's yes, it's subjective, and it always has been subjective. It's not like,
Really?
yeah, the departments get together and they have a conversation. So right now they get a ranking list of like the top 10, I think, kids, but because it's based on a particular subject, then the teachers all, like for that department, all get together and have conversations about each of those students and make the final decision. So it's similar to how like the scholarship process works. They have like a pool of candidates that they look at, and they talk about like that student in each of the particular classes that they had within that subject. Because that student that for English may have had 5 teachers for different various English classes while they were there. So they'll talk about the different students that are on the list that we provide them. So the core course of study, I did not change much. Really, the only thing that I changed was moving it from rank, looking at like a students within a rank category, to a weighted GPA, because we may not have rank to go off of in the next couple of years. So that was pretty.
So let me ask you before you go into the next one. So the core areas are the English, math, social studies, science, and world language.
Yep.
Okay. And so are those Those are not the categories that you've used in the past?
Those are the categories we've used in the past.
Okay.
Yep, so this, nothing on this changed other than like, we used to pull a report of like the top 10 and rank, so I just changed it to weighted GPA, which is what determines our rank right now. So that list is not going to drastically change, it's just going to be pulled by weighted GPA instead.
So I was looking at your listings for 2024, the ones earlier,
Yep.
the recipients. And so this past year, or last academic year, you gave one for math, science, social science, and English, and then you also had French, Latin, and Spanish, so.
We're going to combine those.
Okay.
So that is because CTE, we're not going to do one for every CTE department. And I talked to Judy about the amount of money that we get for the Haven medals, because I've never really paid attention to that, because Kay does it. She orders the medals and all of that. But I'm sure the cost of those has gone up, and we don't want to add on 5 additional medals for CTE. So we're going to do one for foreign language and one for CTE instead of doing one for every foreign language, because then the other pieces, the foreign languages could change. Because like we used to have Chinese, now we have Italian. So like I don't want to write any of that in either.
Does a student have to have 3 years in one specific language?
Yes, and most of them do. That's
do.
typical, yeah, because for colleges and stuff, they're looking for at least 3 years of the same foreign language, so.
Can take 3 years of Chinese?
Yeah, they used to be able to, they can't now, because they
Oh.
switched out the program, it's Italian now.
Oh,
They've
okay.
moved to Italian, but yes, we used to have, we have up to 6 levels of French, Italian, and Spanish. So they have to double up, actually, if they want to be able to get through the whole program.
And so they have to have 3 years in that particular core, and they still have to have an overall 4.0? 4.0 out of what?
So currently, our weighted GPA, so currently our weighted GPA is on a 5, it's a 5.3 scale.
Okay.
So,
It's a 5 scale?
yeah, our weighted GPA is.
All right.
And we can take out, that's why we did unweighted on this. We can take out the GPA requirement if we want to. It leaves it, like, I was trying to find some other way than rank, essentially, to be able to do that. And that's why, so we put weighted for the regular and unweighted for CTE, because we don't want to leave anyone out. In some of the CTE programs, those students aren't necessarily taking like all honors classes otherwise. They're taking all the college prep. So that was, Courtney particularly said that she doesn't want to leave out like students because they don't have like a really high GPA on the weighted scale. So we can change them both to unweighted if we wanted to.
Explain to me what you mean by weighted.
So we have 2 GPAs. We have an unweighted GPA, which basically means that every single class counts as the same. Like if they get an A, it goes in as a 4.0, and it's straight average from all of their grades. There's no weighting system based on what classes they're taking. The weighted GPA, certain classes are weighted differently, and it has a different scale. So currently, and I don't know if this will change, but currently our weighted GPA is a 5.33 scale. So if a student takes an honors class and gets an A+, it goes in as a 5.33. If they get an A, it's a 5.0. So it's a full 1, like it shifts up 1 point from the unweighted, because the unweighted is a 4.33 scale. So.
So what's your preference?
I mean, I think we could probably be fine going unweighted for both, because that's never going to change. Like, we're always going to be able to calculate a straight average of a kid's grades. The weighted scale could change. It has in the past. The 5.33 started my first year at Portsmouth. That was never how it was calculated before. So, and especially with the possibility of getting rid of rank, there could be some changes.
If you
with
go
that.
unweighted on the core courses, your pool of candidates will expand exponentially, which
It-
leaves for more discretion.
Would expand, but we could maybe put some, like, once you put in that they have to have like an A or above in all of the classes plus the overall GPA of whatever we decide on the unweighted scale, it will cut it down. Because if a kid gets a B in one of their English classes, they're automatically not eligible.
What do you mean, in all of the classes?
So for the particular area that they're looking at, so if
Yeah.
it's English,
You've got to have A's.
they have to have A's in all their English classes, plus an overall GPA of above whatever we decide, yeah. So basically, that GPA requirement is really more so there to make sure that the student isn't only strong in that one area, but has poor grades in every other subject.
So, have you had years in which people haven't qualified? Because it seems like a tough,
No. I mean, our top students, like, really, like, I mean, the kid that's number one in the class this year, I don't think has gotten less than an A+ in every class. So, like, I mean, our top 10 particularly, like, even top 20, because once you get in from, like, 8 to 20 in terms of rank right now, their GPAs, we have to go out 4 decimals to be able to differentiate between them.
Wow.
It's very tight. So,
Get a lot of smart kids.
we do, yes, we do.
and so when you say, at one point you used the term they have to have A or better, would an A- not qualify?
Correct. It would be an A or A+.
Okay.
Or we could change, that's, like I said, this
Well,
was,
I'm just trying to clarify, because
Yeah.
at some point, we're going to have to commit this to a writing that, has to be,
it's very specific, yeah.
and I'll go with whatever you want, but it has to be A or better, or?
We could change it to A-,
A,
so
which-
it's any A, yeah, an A- or better. If that's, I'm gonna take some notes.
Well, listen, I mean, unless you guys feel strongly about it, we're not the academicians here,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, no, this is your call. We just
this is your call.
document it and send you the medals.
Yeah, I think either one would be okay. I think A- is gonna give you more students, obviously, in the pool of candidates.
Ju- For what it's worth, I'm not sure that's a good thing, because it leads to more discretion.
Yes, yeah.
What is, they expand the pool?
By having more students in the pool, and you're only giving out one medal,
You want a small pool, like you want it to only be.
It's left to the discretion
Yeah.
Yeah,
of
yeah.
a committee versus,
Yeah. Well, and on the ranking thing, if you think it's a good idea to do that, we could include language that says that it will be given on class rank unless the school ceases to rank students or something.
We could also do a percentage rank, because I can always calculate that based off of GPA. So if we said that they had to be in the top 10% of the class or something like that, I can do that based off of, I can just pull a report on their GPAs. And then do it based off the percentage, because that will always be a thing, like it's never,
Yeah, so don't look at us as like the school board.
yeah, yeah,
Think of it as just
please.
the people who have to comply. So literally, what I think we're really looking for is what you want. And so if you think you want to, with, class rank, or you want to have scores weighted or unweighted, or you want to do what percentile the student, and we can, I think we're going to have to do is to go through what's called a non-judicial process with this settlement process. We just want to make sure we get it right the first time.
yep,
And in order, right, in my opinion, is what the school wants.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I would say putting the percentage, like the top 5 or 10% of the class would probably be easiest. When I say that rank is going away, like, I'm like 95% sure we're not going to have it in the next couple of years. So to put something in now that would only be in effect for the next 2 years, we might as well just start doing percentage now if we're going to do that.
I think what you need to do is to get it written the way you want it,
Yeah.
and then go to the school board for their approval.
well, I don't want to, if you could, with whoever you're working with, sort of outline it, answering these questions
Yeah.
in writing, I'd like to look at it before I have the school board approve it and then come back to us.
Okay.
Because we've got to get it into a document that the AG's office is going to approve. And I I don't want to jerk people around going back and forth.
Yep.
But that's one of the reasons we're asking you a lot of these detailed questions.
Yep.
I don't know whether you feel comfortable just making the decisions on your own, or whether ultimately,
I mean, I'll check with the curriculum office, Shay, St. Laurent, and Jackie Chisholm, because I feel like it shouldn't just be me, but I'll talk to them. I do think we could definitely put a percentage in there, and that would help in terms of getting like an exact list, more so than just doing like what the GPA would be. So I can talk to them, because that would be something that will never go away. We can always pull that.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so any other changes in the core course medals, or can we move on to the career tech?
I think we can move on to the career tech.
Okay, so tell us what your thinking is on the,
So this is a little bit more vague on purpose, because we don't know, like, we don't know what CTE programs are going to be offering in 10 years. Like, they could change. So we didn't explicitly write out any of the specific programs that are currently offered. We just said that it's going to be one student chose from the CTE program. And they have to be a completer, which looks different for each program.
have to be a complete what?
A completer. So basically, if you, they're like, each program has like a pathway that in order to be named as a completer at the end of high school, you have to complete that pathway, but each one looks different. So for business, you have to take 4 of the 5 classes, but for auto, you have to take both auto 1 and auto 2. So it looks a little bit different based off of the program, so we purposely didn't put any of that language in here, with the understanding that, like, I mean, I think Courtney's looking to bring in a construction trades program in the next few years. The programs could change. Like the health science one is only 3 years old. Like, so those programs do change periodically in what we offer. So we purposely were more vague with this one than giving like specific subjects and like what classes they have to take and things like that. So basically, we just said they need to be a senior, they need to be a completer by the end of senior year. And then we can do the percentage piece on this too, but that may hurt some students.
Yeah.
Because like, and this isn't a judgment at all, but like, you have some kids that CTE is their thing because it's hands-on and that's their type of learning, but the core academic stuff is not their thing, so they may not pull as strong grades from those classes. And we don't want to take any of those kids out of the running. So instead of doing any percentage rank or anything like that, we just said that they need to have an unweighted GPA in their CTE program. So we took out all the core. It doesn't have anything to do with their core classes.
Okay, so they would have to have a 4.0
Which is an A average,
and
unweighted, yep, in their
okay,
CTE courses.
in that program over
Yep.
that period of time.
Yes,
And then, but they aren't going to have an overall 4.0 or any other particular, okay.
yep.
And so, all right, so that seems pretty straightforward.
I would just ask you, when you think this through again, and I think this is good, maybe some way, I just feel only one student out of the entire CTE school sort of shortchanges
We
their
could,
recognition.
yeah, we can definitely do a couple.
Yeah.
And I can write it in here. I don't know if the fund, like, and that's one of the things, Kay just got back yesterday. She's been on medical leave for 3 months, so I haven't been able to talk to her to find out, like, the cost of the medals and stuff. So I'm going to talk to her and find out, like, what is the actual cost of the medals right now, because we've got them from the same person for years, to my knowledge. So I don't know if he's increased his prices, like, so we just need to be cautious in terms of what we're buying for the medals versus like what
Right.
we're allocated for the Haven medals each
Yeah.
year, so.
How many programs are there in the CTE?
Currently, culinary, medical, business, computers, 7,
7?
yeah.
But that would be too many medals,
Yeah.
I think, at that point.
Yeah. So I don't know if we just say like 2, like I can just like say 2 or, because I do
You can
agree.
think about it.
That's a bigger pool of like students to only give one, but to give one for every program would be tough. I mean, I would love to, but I don't think that we have the funds to do that.
All right, so these are the medals just for the seniors.
Yes,
What about for the
yep.
lower class?
So the general excellence, so it's one student is awarded for grades 9, 10, and 11. That's how it was in the past. And then we changed again with the rank piece. We said in the top 5% of their class determined by their weighted GPA has not received a grade below an A- in any core academic course. That's pretty typical, other than, like, this is basically what we do right now. It's just we use a rank instead, and I'm not gonna lie, every single year, it's the kid that's ranked number 1 in the class at that point, when we pull the report.
And so you don't want to have anything for the CTE program on those under?
We could do that instead. We could do the one under, like, CTE, like, that, it's just like, we choose a particular student and then one general excellence, or you could change it to general excellence just for CTE. I just grouped them together because of, like, the general excellence is overall, like, it's their whole.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So they could take CT classes, like a kid that's in general excellence could have CT classes in their schedule.
Well, yeah, that's, so if you had somebody who was, well, I guess if you simply say that any, well, I guess, where do the CTE programs fit into the weighted characteristics?
It depends on the class. So if they're dual enrollment, so like a bunch of them are dual enrollment, they have college credits attached to them, then they are the highest weight that you can get. They are the same as honors or AP at the school. So like even welding, for that matter, is a dual enrollment credit. Businesses, education, there's 8 programs. I knew I forgot one because it's on the other side of the building. So education has a dual enrollment attached to it. So a bunch of them are pretty high level classes because they're college courses. The architecture and auto programs, I think, are the only ones that don't have any college credit attached to them. So those are weighted like normally as any other like college prep class would be.
Okay. So as I look at the outline you have here, of the 3 criteria, obviously the first one, which is the 9, 10, and 11, that could be any, whatever the student's studying.
Yeah.
And then the 5%, there's no reason that couldn't be a CTE student.
Right, oh yeah, this could be a student that's in CTE. I mean, they could be taking CT classes. It's just, the only thing that I would add if you were gonna do CT in this was that they don't have less than an A- in any of their CTE courses also.
Well, so I was, this is where I was gonna get to. So is it possible, all right, so the third one says has not received a grade below A- in any core academic course. Is there a non-core academic course that a non-CTE student, what would that be?
Art,
Oh, okay,
computers,
okay,
yeah.
yeah. And what would happen if you just added on that list, the ones in parentheses, career technical education or something?
I don't think it would change our list any. The kid that like I said, the kids that usually get these are usually like the number 1 ranked kid in the class, and they have like A+ in every class on their transcript.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
don't think it will change anything.
Okay, all right.
So we definitely can add it, so it's consistent with like what's above.
Okay, so that would mean that someone who had a focus in CTE, as long as they also did well in the other core,
Yeah.
would still be eligible to get that years. Okay.
Yep.
Does that make sense, or are we
Not in
micromanaging it here?
reality, because
It could be Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I think we've got a good understanding. Any other questions about that part of it?
I'll go back to the curriculum office with the questions on the core course of study, but it looks like career tech ed and general excellence, we're in pretty good shape, so.
And so what I'm thinking of, and subject to these gentlemen's thoughts as well, is when we get to putting this in writing, that we would have some language that would say if at any point the high school should drop one of the current core fields of study and substitute another one for it, that the medal would be awarded in the new one type of things.
Yep.
That's the flexibility, so
Right.
if you can focus on this type of stuff, understand that we'll have some
Yep.
language like that, and that's the language that we'll try to have for you to take back to the school board.
Okay, perfect.
Right. Any other questions about the Haven medals?
No.
Great. Okay, so tell us about Mr. Kohlhaas.
Yes, so I was approached by David Colhase about a month ago. So I don't know if any of you remember, his son passed away probably 8 years ago now in an accident. He was a junior at the high school at the time. And they created a memorial scholarship for him after that was based mostly in like career trades, like mostly construction trades actually, because it's what he liked to do. And his dad works for a similar company, so they had done a scholarship that was just through the high school. They cut the check, the high school did it. It was, I think, something that they planned to do for a few years and then kind of be done with it. So I just communicated with them individually each year and said, you know, do you guys still want to run it? Here's the candidates that we have for this year. They chose, and that was kind of that. We had like 2 years where we didn't really get any really viable candidates because we didn't have students going into any type of construction trade that they felt they wanted to give the money towards. We had some students in like architecture and things like that, but they wanted something that was more like trade heavy. So they hadn't run it for a couple of years. And then he emailed me this year and asked to meet and wanted to kind of rethink how we were doing it. So essentially, he wants to be able to use the money to fund other things, not just cut a check at the end of the school year for a kid going on to like some type of trade program. He wants to be able to do it like, we have a student who is going to do the Hampton School of Trades and they need a toolbox. Like they can apply for funds to be able to pay for the toolbox. Or maybe it is the kid's taking the Hampton School of the Trades class, but they're a current student, a junior at the high school. Like they could apply for this and it would pay for the Hampton Schools of the Trades class even though they're not a senior. So basically I think what he's looking for is like to have a set amount of money each year that like would be at, and what we would need to figure out is if it's at his discretion, our discretion. Like we haven't talked about how that would look on the other end of things, but basically that would be at someone's discretion to decide how to use throughout the year. And once the money's gone, then it's gone. It doesn't need to be a scholarship necessarily that's just written at the end of the year. But if there was money left in the pot at the end of the year, we can post it to the senior scholarship stuff, and whatever's left can be written out to a scholarship to a student going into the trades. So I think he's looking for some flexibility, and I said to him, I've never done a fund like that, because he's looking to house it with you guys, I think, if it's possible. So I said, I've never done a fund like that, so let me do some research and go talk to the trustees and find out if it's a possibility and how that would work, and you know what you would need in terms of money to be able to put into it and stuff. So he was supposed to be getting me, and I'll check my emails, the exact amount that's still sitting in the bank account for it, but he said his company would also double whatever's in the bank account currently. I can get you the total
Sure.
the next week. But
Is there a current trust agreement or document of some sort?
just what we have, I had shared that one with you too. I don't know if you saw it or not. I can send it again today. Yeah, but I had the text written out of like what they had decided, because it was before me. So I basically just sent him the text that was like, this is what you guys had decided with my
That's-
predecessor.
Is this old criteria?
Yes, yeah, that says old criteria.
Yeah, they do have that.
Yes, so like that's what they had decided, that was before me, and that's what I had always kind of run with. I always email the scholarship committees, the individual ones at this point in the school year and say, this is what you had for last year, this is the amount, do you want to continue with that when we post it in January? And they make changes each year based off of that. But that's what they had used previously, so it was just with the school.
So up till now, well, when this was set up 8 years ago, did his dad put a sum into the school department and the system?
He had his own bank account, and he just cut the check each year to the school department.
Okay, so this is it's like an annual contribution that
Yes.
he's making.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what he's interested in, or the school is interested in, is having them make a upfront contribution to set up like most of our scholarships.
Yes.
Okay.
He wants it to gain interest. Like, right now, it's sitting in just like a general bank account. It's not doing anything. It's not gaining interest. It's not like growing. So he wants someone else to manage it essentially and have the money continue to come in and not just have it be this stagnant account.
It
So,
just kind of reminded me of the Tommy
Yeah,
McKee one,
it's
when
just
she
like
was
it, but-
telling me.
Yeah.
about
But the issue is, what's our minimum for a trust now?
25,000, isn't it?
Well, it's, so we actually, and we'll have Judy give you a copy. We adopted policies on setting up scholarship funds. Now, this is not strictly a scholarship because those were really thought of as going to post-grad.
Yeah.
But, so we've got this policy that has 3 different kinds of what I'll call scholarship funds, which depend upon the level of the initial funding. And then we have what I call general community scholarships. But I don't think those are going to fit with what you want. But the idea is that if somebody wanted to contribute a small amount of money and set an annual disbursement, they can do that type of scholarship, which we call a sunset scholarship. In other words, when the funds have run out,
yeah,
it's over. If somebody has a larger number in mind, and the number we set as a minimum is 25,000, then that would be a named permanent scholarship. We only disperse the interest, we don't disperse the original principal. And how much money is put in at 25 or above completely depends on the donor, but it's a permanent one that will exist in the name of his son. Or,
yeah,
and then we have one which is for people who might not have that initial amount, where we will give them 3 years to raise that. And if they raise that sum within the 3 years, then it remains a permanent. But if they don't, then it will become a sunset one, will depleted over
Yep.
the term. So that's the basic context, and then we can change the purpose from, going to college or post-grad technical training to something that would benefit undergrads. And the one that Judy is mentioning was created pursuant to an agreement with the Tommy McCann estate, where he wanted to allow students who were interested in athletic programs to avail themselves of funds to cover things that the school doesn't cover. So it doesn't cover the, whatever the activity fee might be for a standard school program, but it would, so if the
UNH football camp.
yeah,
Yeah.
like UNH football
Okay.
camp. And so a lot of the kids like to do that, but that's purely non-school fund related. So,
yeah,
so there is a way of doing what he wants to do.
okay,
We'll give you the
Yeah, I'll
policy.
write it down. Yep.
And then really, if he's interested in doing that, we would set that up with the city attorney's office. They
Okay.
draft those documents.
Yep.
We have some say in it.
Yep.
But we can accomplish what David wants to accomplish,
Perfect.
so.
nice. And I think he'll have the 25,000. He was pretty, because I think you had shared that document with me when we were meeting with the John Haley lawyers last year.
Yeah.
So I think
Now, is he the graduate of Portsmouth in Baltimore? No.
No.
I don't think he was.
Yeah, that's the
Was it
one that you
Baltimore?
talked to, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So, yeah, he was putting like his whole estate into a
Yeah.
scholarship.
We
Yeah.
haven't heard anything from him.
Oh, okay. I can reach out because it would have been his lawyers. He was like hot to trot to
Yeah.
get his lawyer to get everything settled. So that's interesting. but that's good to know. I can reach out. But yes, I'll reach out to him and tell him that we can definitely do it, and I can send him that document, like, so he can decide which type of fund he
Yeah.
wants to do, but I think it's probably gonna be the $25,000 one if I'm guessing,
Okay.
so.
That'd be great.
And just say, there is flexibility in determining what qualifies and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And, and we've had some where, for some period of time, the donor actually chose the recipient.
That was gonna be my next question. So would it be you guys that choose how the funds
No,
are
no.
used? It would be the school or him
Well,
or?
so most of the time, when there's scholarships, it's determined by the school, by the guidance department and the principal's office, et cetera. But we have had one that recently expired because all the funds were spent, but the family of a deceased student made the decision.
Carrie McHale.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Marge and I we talk a lot.
Well, so there, we can do that as well.
Yeah.
But in the case of Tommy McCann, we get recommendations from the athletic director.
Yes, yeah.
So in this case, it could be the CTE
CTE,
director,
yes.
or it could be him.
Yeah, and I do that with all of the scholarships at the end of the year that are through the trustees. So like any of the athletic ones, like our committee like has everything, but then I pull in Cause and Karen. Any of the ones that are trade related, I pull in Courtney and Nicole. Like, so we bring other people in based off of what the requirements are
Sure.
for it. So it would be similar to what we do right now. It would just be throughout the year, it sounds
Yeah.
like, instead of.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, you can keep it in the same type of decision-making.
Yeah.
And, or you can earmark it, it's going to be the CTE program administrator
Yeah.
or what have you, whichever way he wants to pursue.
Okay. All right, perfect. So I will get back to him today because I know he wants to
Yep.
get this moving because he really wants the money to be out of that, like, just savings account, so it can start kind of growing. So I'll get back to him today and let him know that we can definitely do it and send him over that document, and then we'll move on from there.
It's great.
Okay, cool.
Great.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Hope your daughter feels better.
Well, one is better, and then the other one I got a call from daycare yesterday, had a fever, so my husband was home with her yesterday. That time of year.
Can we please circle back to the Public Art Trust?
All right,
Thanks, guys.
thank
Happy
you.
Thanksgiving.
Okay?
You too.
In looking at the contract that everyone signed that was approved for the RFP, it does state that the funds come from that percentage of arts on the contract. So I don't know if that changes it for you. It's right here. And if it does, then that should have gone to you as well, and not just the page with the installment on it.
I'd have to look at this whole thing.
Okay.
But I'm not, because that's
It's
just.
not clear enough
That's
for
just a
you?
recital.
Okay,
If it had in it that the funds will be paid
okay,
from, then I might have a better comfort level. This simply says that
Okay.
there are funds available in the public arts.
okay. I just,
The trust document itself controls us dispersing this.
I understand, I just saw it, I wanted to bring it up before, just in
Yeah,
case.
no, the other thing is, I think they passed that new public arts ordinance thing,
Yes,
and,
yes,
last month, and, or earlier this month, and again, there is language in there about
Okay.
the same type of disbursement process.
okay. Then we'll go, I just wanted to point it out. I do have one other check.
Yep.
It is for the annual renewal of the financial program, that software that we use
Oh,
every
yeah.
year at this time. It's gone up about $250, so it's $1,660. But this is what we use to keep track of everything for the
That's an
trust.
annual
Annual.
license?
Annual license, yep.
What software is it?
Abila, it's called Abila.
Avila.
Yeah, it's
It
kind of,
worked for you?
very much so,
Good.
very user-friendly, easy to track all the different trusts.
I was looking at that new ordinance, and they talk about what happens when funds are allocated based on the percentage of the project that they're not used, and
It doesn't need your signature. I think he's just showing it to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so it's going to be important to make sure you have those subcategories in the account, and which,
Yep.
because some monies may default to become maintenance for, but it's not clear whether they're maintenance in general or maintenance for that particular piece of art, so.
Okay.
I was just skimming it last night in light of the conversation we had earlier, so
Okay.
I'll try to get a copy of that and have it for the next meeting, so you can just look at it when you want, but, okay.
So you'll follow back up on the,
I'm gonna
Yeah.
be meeting with Suzanne and at 10:30. I'll raise all these issues with her.
okay.
Okay, nobody here from the public, so we will not have any discussion. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
So move second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right on time.
Votes aye, yeah, we're